So this is February 8th, 2021. Possibly Darcy's Corner Part 2 for today. I'm just splitting up the videos so that they don't get too long in any one of them. I'm old school, by the way, so I'm not very tech savvy when it comes to editing things and whatever, so I just keep an eye on the time and stop after so many minutes. In case I end up posting this and you're wondering why this is the way it is, that's why. Anyway, but yeah, so the RTT and MRSA peer in particular, she teaches several techniques and she gives very good advice actually on how to determine what you want to do. And so now I know that the carpentry thing and the beekeeping thing is a good focus for me. But that's not my only focus. And because I never do just any one thing at one time. And I would very much like to perfect the RTT specialist field. It pays very well, for one. And number two, it's just a beautiful skill to have, to be able to reach inside the mind and, focus it on what you want to get you where you need to be. One of the techniques she teaches is called merging the child, but that's not quite the right phrase. But anyway, what she does is she takes you back in your mind, and you go meet, 8-year-old you or 5-year-old you or whatever, and you have a conversation with that person. And I was listening to that audio because she does it for you, but she's doing a generic version of it, right? Because she's just teaching you how the process works. But when you take the course, you go through it, and it's phenomenal, really. I remember when I first took the course, like, it was so emotionally draining, but like uplifting, and it helped me, work through so many things. Because, my adolescence, much of it was a lot of psychological torture, dealing with my peers. I really hated a lot of it. But like, she helps bring up those memories and helps you work through them in a way that you can see where that's affecting me today. And so I can now, once you know what's wrong, once you know why that's affecting you, now you can fix it. See, just because you're a rational adult today and you go, oh, well, of course that happened, I was 10, right? And I didn't have the skills to deal with that situation at the time. But that situation, it scarred you on the inside. And then, like, maybe you forgot about it, moved on, but your subconscious didn't. Your subconscious still feels that sting. And you make decisions or not, depending on what happened back then, because your subconscious is protecting you from what it perceives to be a dangerous situation or a bad situation. So what you have to do is you have to talk to your subconscious and know what to say and how to say it to change that, right? And once you do that, suddenly opportunities open up and you're able to do things in a focused way, in a better way, in an accomplished way where before you couldn't. And what was holding you back before was those mental hooks that were inside you from, dealing with a bully or getting chased down by a dog or something, which were, literal things that happened to me. Those are memories that came back when she did her whammy on me. But it was a generic whammy because she's talking to a whole bunch of people and she's teaching you how to do it. Really, the best way to do that is to have a one-on-one session with somebody familiar with the technique. But it's hard to do for yourself because you can't ask yourself rational questions because you're not. When you're in a hypnotic state, if you want to stay in a dreamlike state, you don't want to be consciously asking yourself these questions because you just want your brain to kind of float or your mind to float. So you need somebody steering the boat, as it were. Anyway, so all this is leading to the fact that I'm going to write a program or develop an RTT program for trans people, like one for me specifically, but for trans people in general, because so many of us are transitioning as adults. And you know why we're transitioning as adults? Because in today's world, I'm talking 2021, it is more socially acceptable for us to put our head out and not get it chopped off. I realize not all parts of the world have that, but much of the civilized world does. I'm talking Canada, United States, United Kingdom, Australia, places where they have first world democracies and like actual freedoms, and they really genuinely try to protect them. I know there's people in all these different places who keep fighting back and trying to take them away, but they're not winning. We are winning the culture war, the LGBT community. We are becoming accepted and acceptable in society. And even if you're a person like me who obviously stands out, who does not blend or fit in yet, um, society is still becoming much more accepting of people like me. So that was a large part of why I came out in my almost 40s instead of coming out back in my 30s. Because when I was 30, the world was not nearly as friendly or accepting of my condition as it is now. Even amongst people who have my condition, I was rejected by them because they didn't think I was trans enough for them. But that's another story. But the important thing is that people like me are coming out, and we need help accepting who we are, and we need help becoming the person that we want to be. I don't want to be in between. I want to have the voice. I want to have the speech patterns. I want to just look feminine so that if you see me walking into a store, you say, "Excuse me, ma'am, can I help you?" It is so disheartening for so many of us when we walk into a random store and we are misgendered by the clerk or by the person behind the reception desk or whatever. And you can't, it's hard to get mad at them because they see what they see. And, you know, that's the same with the rest of society. But I'm not a man in a dress. I'm a woman stuck in a man's face who happens to have a man's voice. That's what I am. But I understand if the rest of the world doesn't see that. And it's very possible and probable that I will have a much more passable situation within the next year or two. If I keep on the HRT, if I keep on the voice lessons or the voice changes. And again, there's surgery for all these things too. There's surgery that can affect the voice. Obviously, there's plastic surgery for the face. All these things are expensive. And depending on where you live, like it may or may not be covered by your situation. It's strange. I live in Canada, and they will pay for me to have breasts, and they will pay for my genitals to be turned inside out if that's what I want, but they won't pay for me to change my face or my voice. You know what's funny? When you walk into a store, nobody looks at your genitals. They might look at your chest, but mostly they're looking at your face. When you talk to somebody over the phone, they don't ask, do you have a vagina or not? But they say hello, sir or ma'am, depending on what they hear in the tone of your voice. Those are the things that we need help paying for. I mean, the rest of it's all important. It's all important. But in order for me to successfully transition and become a passable woman, which is what my goal is, that's like thousands and thousands of dollars that I don't have. And it is so hard to get gainful employment that might even assist with some of those things with benefits, but even like the money that they'll pay me for to pay for that stuff, it's so hard for me to get gainful employment when I'm this in-between creature. Not that I'm putting down anybody who's in between who's happy with that. And there are many trans folk who are happy being in between. But I'm not one of them. And if I could do this in secret, if I could do this like that, I would do it. But I don't have that choice, right? And if I could have done this when I was 12, Maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know. Because when I was a child, of course, this was not socially acceptable. And I didn't know, because how could I have known? I was a child. Um, that this would become very important to me as an adult, and that I was missing a very important step in my adolescence. I didn't know that. My parents didn't know that, and that's another story. Um, in fact, I'm going to start one more of these, and I might rant a little about my parents and the generation that they grew up in. But I don't hate them, by the way, and they treated me with love and kindness growing up. That's an important note. Anyway, again, it's getting long, so I'm going to cut this off. But stay tuned for more of Darci's Ramble.